You said something true once, something you had been carrying for a while. The other person nodded, said something back. The conversation moved on, and you sat there knowing they hadn't heard a word of it. Not the real thing, just the sound of it. I have been in that room, not unloved, not alone in the obvious sense, just unseen. And I have started to think that unseen might be the loneliest word there is. In 1886, Anton Chekhov wrote a story. Most people read in 12 minutes and spend the rest of their lives inside. A sled driver named Iona is working the winter streets of St. Petersburg. His son died a week ago. He needs to tell someone. He tries with the first passenger. The man isn't interested. He tries with 3 young men in his sledge. They laugh, shout, fall asleep. He tries with the yard keeper. The yard keeper walks away. Late that night, Iona goes to the stable. He stands beside his horse and begins to talk. The illness, the last days, the silence that came after. Chekhov never explains the story. He just leaves you there, in a cold stable, beside a man who found the only listener willing to stay. What he understood and put into 12 pages no philosopher has improved on is that the need to be witnessed is not a luxury. It is as close to biological as feeling can get. And when it goes unmet long enough, we will find it wherever we can. 23 centuries ago, Aristotle tried to understand why some friendships reach us and others don't. He found that most connection happens on 2 levels. People useful to each other, people who enjoy each other. And beneath those, something rarer. 2 people who know the whole of each other and choose each other anyway. Not the useful version, not the entertaining version, the actual thing. He called this the only true friendship. Then he said it was rare. Not because people are shallow, because it requires time and depth and a kind of mutual recognition that most people spend entire lifetimes developing. So, if you feel alone even among people who love you, you are probably living in the first 2 categories, which is where almost everyone lives, and feeling the absence of the third, which is what almost everyone needs. This loneliness is not a verdict on you, it is a diagnosis. There's a difference. Here is something I don't say often. The reason I don't go first isn't that I don't know how. It's the calculation underneath, the one I have never quite said out loud. If I show the real thing and they still don't see it, I lose the last protection I had. Unseen is painful, but seen and found not enough is something you can't come back from. The same way, I think most people make this calculation without ever deciding to make it. In 1923, Martin Buber published a small book that changed how we understand human contact. He said there are 2 ways to be with another person. The first, you see them as a function, a colleague, a contact, a familiar face. You process each other. This is not cruelty. It is the surface layer through which most people move through most of their lives. The second is something else. Both people fully present, no performance, no agenda, just 2 people completely there, in the same moment. Buber said these moments cannot be manufactured, but you can make yourself available to them. And here is what I keep returning to. Most modern loneliness is not the absence of people. It is a life lived almost entirely in the first mode, surrounded by contact, starving for encounter. The edited version of you can walk through a room of people who care about you and touch no one. And when someone connects with the edited version, you still feel alone. You know it wasn't really you they met. In 1558, Michel de Montaigne met a man named La Boétie at a dinner in Bordeaux. Something passed between them immediately, something neither of them could explain. When asked, years later, why their friendship was what it was, Montaigne wrote 8 words: Parce que c'était lui, parce que c'était moi. Because it was him, because it was me. 5 years later, La Boétie died of plague. He was 32. Montaigne retreated to a tower on his estate and began to write. Conversations with someone no longer there. Letters to readers he would never meet. The more completely he revealed himself, his fears, his contradictions, his small failures, the less alone he became. Not because the grief left, because he had made himself visible enough that the distance between him and the stranger began to collapse. Going first doesn't mean all at once. It means further than feels safe. Just slightly further. 17,000 years ago, someone pressed their hand against the wall of a cave in southern France. They blew ochre pigment around the edges, a silhouette, a shape where a hand had been. We don't know their name. We don't know their face or their language or who they loved or what they feared. We know only this: they needed to be seen, and they found a way to say it that outlasted every civilization that came after. They were seen, not by anyone they knew, by us, by you, right now, across 17,000 years. Something reached. You don't need everyone. You don't need it every day. You don't need what that person needed. One moment of genuine contact. One person who sees the actual thing and doesn't leave. It is rare. It cannot be forced. And it begins when someone goes first. When did you last let someone actually see you?
I leave one plate on the rack, one shoe by the door. The room gets bigger at night when nobody's keeping score. I scroll past names and faces like they might call my name, but the silence knows my habits, it still waits the same. Yeah. And you text, you good, right on time. 2 little words and I feel alive. You don't let me fall, you stay in the dark. You knock on my door, you know where I are.